Good afternoon and welcome. We will begin our webinar, Real Estate Updates and Resizing Tips in 10 minutes. Please make yourselves comfortable in our virtual lobby and enjoy our virtual tour. Good afternoon and welcome. We will begin our webinar, Real Estate Updates and Right-Sizing Tips in 5 minutes. Please make yourself comfortable in our virtual lobby and enjoy our virtual tour.
Hello. Thank you for joining us today for what we know will be a very informative webinar. I am Sue Dalton. In a few minutes, you will meet today's guest speakers. We are so grateful for the over 100 of you who have accepted Goodwin Living's invitation to learn more about our current real estate market and some downsizing tips. Each of your speakers today are located in different areas through the magic of technology. We are being assisted by Katie Ramos, who is the Administrative Assistant to the Executive Director at Goodwin House Bailey's Crossroads, and by Faith Hall, the Sales and Marketing Coordinator for the sales team. From time to time, you may hear us asking them to advance the slides for us. Before we begin, let's go over some housekeeping items. Next slide. Thank you. We will have a question and answer period at the end of today's webinar, and we encourage you to enter your own questions at any time during the webinar. You can do that by using the question pane on the side of your screen. You can click on the question mark and that pane will open up for you, and you can enter your questions, as I said, at any time. We will review the questions and do our very best at the end of the webinar to answer each and every one of them. We are recording today's webinar and we'll be sharing that recording with you via email sometime next week. Next slide, please. Many of you are already familiar with Goodwin Living, and you may know that our mission is to support, honor, and uplift the lives of older adults and the people who care for them. And we've been doing that since 1967. We now are actively pursuing also our vision of expanding the places and the ways that we serve older adults. As a not-for-profit, faith-based senior living and healthcare organization, we work to ensure that all of us can thrive and live our lives with purpose, regardless of our age. We do this through our many lines of service. Next slide, please. Goodwin Living is the parent company, providing an umbrella for the other organizations that you see here on the screen. Our senior living communities, Goodwin House Alexandria, Goodwin House Bailey's Crossroads, and now including the View Alexandria, are our three communities. Within those communities, Goodwin House Home Care is able to provide private duty care to our residents. Both inside our communities and outside their walls, the four additional lines of service you see here, Goodwin Living at Home, Goodwin Rehabilitation, Goodwin Home Health, and Goodwin Hospice, provide specific support to older adults. Let's talk about the communities for a minute. Faith? After many years of uplifting the lives of older adults at our two flagship communities, Goodwin House Alexandria and Goodwin House Bailey's Crossroads, we are proud to say that our family has expanded to include the View Alexandria, which we acquired just 7 months ago. The View Alexandria was formerly known as Hermitage, Northern Virginia, and is located directly across the street from Goodwin House Alexandria. So many of you may have seen it before. We have really enjoyed bringing the Goodwin Living lifestyle to the residents there, and we are welcoming many new residents every month. We are very, very proud of the longevity of the staff at the View Alexandria, many of whom have been with the community for over 10 years. With so many healthcare organizations today suffering from staff shortages, we are confident that our residents are receiving the services they expect. TBA, the View Alexandria, has a different financial plan than our other communities, and we'll share that with you on the next slide. Goodwin House Alexandria and Goodwin House Bailey's Crossroads are life plan communities offering a variety of contract options, all involving an entrance fee and a monthly fee. We provide all levels of living and offer specialized care from the other lines of service that we mentioned earlier. The View Alexandria is different in that it features a fee-for-service agreement, a small community fee, and month-to-month fees, allowing for great flexibility for residents. In addition to independent living, assisted living, and long-term care, the View also offers specialized care from all the other Goodwin Living lines of service. There is really a lot of important information on this slide, and we have learned that the best way to truly understand the contract types, the services, the financial plans in any retirement community, ours or anyone else's, the best way to learn is to visit the community and meet with one of the sales counselors. Our final slide contains contact information if you would like to arrange for an appointment. As you'll see on our next slide, now with 3 communities and many lines of service, Goodwin Living is able to serve older adults in their own home or in one of our communities. If you have an interest in joining one of our communities and you are not yet a Priority Club member, we urge you to become a member. Okay? Becoming a Priority Club member gives you access to your preferred apartment style. It's our wait list. As you'll see on our next slide, becoming a member of the Priority Club is very easy. Completing the application and providing the fees will put your name on our waiting list for your preferred apartments. Once you are a member, you can enjoy the fitness center, the pools, the activities, the concerts, the lectures, all the things that our residents enjoy, and you can enjoy them without charge if you're a Priority Club member. For more information on joining our Priority Club, remember to check that final slide in our presentation today for the contact information, or you can always go to our website and contact us that way. At this time, I would like to introduce our first speaker. Eric Stewart started his real estate career in 1987, and each year he and his group sell over 150 homes in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. Eric has created real estate specialists who help seniors with the difficult downsizing process and the sale of their homes. He offers free seminars, publications, and workshops to guide seniors through the challenging time in their lives. Eric is also the founder of Widow Care, a nonprofit organization focused on providing content, connections, and programs to those facing the loss of a spouse. In addition to his community work, Eric has hosted a weekly radio talk show since 2004 on WMAL 105.9 FM. His show, Getting Older with Eric Stewart, runs every Sunday from 10 to 10:30 a.m. Tune in and listen to a broad range of interviews and topics relevant to seniors and getting older. The Eric Stewart Group is comprised of a full team of real estate professionals who provide an unrivaled turnkey home selling experience. Eric?
Well, it's nice to see everybody. Thank you for that very nice introduction, Sue. I'm Eric Stewart. I'm a local real estate agent. I've been practicing for 35 years now. I'd like to take just a minute and introduce you to a little my family background because it will help you understand what I'm going to present to you today. So I come from a family of physicians. My grandfathers were both orthopedic surgeons. My grandfather, Peterson, was the chief of orthopedics at Walter Reed, and my other grandfather ran the Shriners Hospital in Oahu during World War II, and my father was the chief of staff at Columbia Hospital for Women. And my great aunt, Florence Kendall, founded physical therapy as we know it today. I never really liked biology that much, but I really like the way that that doctors care for patients. And in a sense, I've taken that philosophy and thinking and applied it to my real estate practice. We've very fine-tuned practice that meets you where you are. And Some of you are coming in really excited about the chance to move, and others of you are really tentative and maybe even are kind of itching not to hear what I have to say. You know, it all depends on where we are. And I just want you to know that today's conversation is a safe place for you to land, to ask questions, and just to gather information, to understand the process of how to sell for top dollar. And so I'd like to jump in now and try to teach you a bit about that. Again, you'll have a chance to ask questions in a little bit, so make some notes if you have them, okay? All right, so I've been a realtor now 35 years, as I said, and I'm licensed in Maryland, DC, and Virginia with Long & Foster Realtors, and we have offices all over Northern Virginia and DC and Maryland. I'm a lifelong Washingtonian, sold over 4,000 homes, and just really excited about working in the seniors space, primarily because it's something I've done really for about 18 to 20 years now, more especially. I started a radio show on WMAL. I found the same questions coming up. And my new show, Getting Older, will provide some additional answers if you choose to listen at 105.9 FM on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. So next slide, please. Widow Care is an organization that was mentioned, and I encourage you, if you're a widow or widower, to check that out at widowcare.org. It's a safe place for widows and widowers to land, and it's peer-led support. This is my administrative team. These are wonderful people that work with me. Most of my staff have been with me for 10 years or longer. Next slide. I've built a team of seniors real estate specialists, and each one of these fine real estate agents has been trained, carefully chosen, so that they understand the complexities that you face in crossing a bridge from where you are now into your new home at Goodwin Living, one of the 3 communities. And what a great place. I always look forward to going to Goodwin, primarily because it just feels like home when I walk in the front door. It's got this great, again, quality of just warmth, and there's a heart you can see in the community through the people that work there. You probably know what I mean. Next slide. We'll chat right now about the 3 arcs of the home sale flywheel. Now, essentially, I broke down timing, pricing, and condition as the 3 elements, in my opinion, that are critical for you to consider when you're selling. Timing is rarely considered as much as it needs to be. Condition is considered, and oftentimes the biggest challenge that you face, and it shouldn't be. And I'll show you some really, really keen ways to overcome your condition fears for selling. And then pricing, you might say, well, price is the most important thing. I get it, but within the real estate sale, price is really predicated upon what time of year, the condition, and the overall market dynamics. So we'll dive into all 3. We've got a shifting market. It's bringing a little bit of friction in, just like at the county fair when you spin the flywheel, and you know, it click, 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 click. It clicks through, and there's that little bit of friction, and ultimately it stops somewhere. There's a little friction in the market right now, and it's interest rates. I'll just mention that right away because it's one of the biggest questions you probably have. It's what's that impact and what's happening here in the DC market? Well, I've got some really exciting news for you. The market has not slowed down. It is still white hot. I literally got 4 offers overnight on one of my properties, and we'll sell it for a very, very fine price, and to settle in about 3.5 weeks, and it's a vacant house, and I'm really excited about it. And it's the demand across the board. I just sold a home in Cameron Station in Alexandria. We didn't have to budge on price. We got exactly what we wanted, and we were able to sell it very quickly. We just really see, even though there's this shifting market and the rates have gone up, there's not enough homes for sale. So if you happen to get the phone call from Goodwin saying, hey, we have the place you really want, you don't have to worry about selling your property. And albeit rates have climbed from 3 to around 6 3/4 today, and that puts an increase of about 50% in the monthly cost for the same borrowed amount compared to last year. There was overwhelming demand, and there still is, and there just aren't enough sellers selling. So you can really take advantage of that. Next slide. Timing. Next slide. We're going to cover 4 graphs, and I want you to focus on this undulation. Notice the high point in each of these 3 years that you're looking at. You've got 20, 21, and 22. We're coming into 23. But notice that June and July is when prices peak overall. That's across the entire Northern Virginia market. If you think of the overall highest prices in average, they're generally trending in the spring market sales cycle, which is now through early May. It's a great time to sell. But even after that, we still have incredible sales environment compared to really 95% of the rest of the country. Most places are suffering. We read about it, we see it on the news, we hear about these really receded prices because prices had escalated so dramatically in Austin, Texas, and parts of California, and in Washington State and other places that now are kind of in a bit of a recession. What do you think is the number one reason why prices are firm and we consistently see a good market, and why I really love selling real estate in the Washington, D.C. area? The federal government. I recently helped one of the cabinet members of the current administration sell and purchase a home. That process was delightful. It was elementary in its very core, because the major employer that was providing that person the opportunity to do what they're doing is providing that for hundreds of thousands of people, and they're feeding into this market that we will want to sell into. So again, another comfort point for us as we consider selling this year. Next slide. Days on the market. Well, if you look at this graph from left to right, it looks like the days on the market have shot up dramatically in the last 6 months, and they have. And that's simply because of how interest rates changed. That means that homes on average are staying on the market longer than they were, which could be interpreted as a bearish sign. The key that we have to consider in relationship to that is, what are the number of homes for sale? If we have a dramatic increase in the number of homes for sale at the same time as we have a dramatic increase in the days on the market, that will usually mean there isn't quite as much demand. We're in a flattening market and even potentially slightly softening market. Next slide. We see the number of homes sold has dropped dramatically. Look at that drop, almost to, just bare minimum, well below what we saw the last 3 years. Why would so few homes sell? Well, you might draw a conclusion again that the market's bad. Next slide. But what I want to show you now is, if you look at this as the inventory in Northern Virginia, and you notice the low points, kind of the cups as you look at this graph, and you see a cup forming on the far right, you see it dropping into its trough. Notice that at the bottom of that is the month of January. We're going to start to see an increase in inventory, which is normal in February, March, April, and May going into the summer. And then there will be a peak in inventory, and then it will fall back down into the January of 24. What I'm trying to say to you here is, we really have low inventory. It's not as low as it was in 22, but it's just where it was in 21, which was an all-time low since like 25 years ago. So we're pretty close to all-time lows in inventory, and yet it's taking a little bit longer to sell on average. The skew in that is the market for houses over $2 million, which take longer. Pretty much anything under $1.5 million is white hot, just perfect. If you price condition and the timing in relationship to the overall market demand that we have right now, we're still in a great market. So in conclusion, low supply, strong demand, a little bit longer, but still fast. A great time to sell. Next slide. Let's talk about the timing of preparing your home. Now, I've just chosen a 14-day window here. For some of you all, you're not ready to do something until, again, you get a call from Goodwin saying, hey, we've got the place that you really wanted, and we want you to come in, and you decide it's time for you to go. What I want you to think about today is that selling your home is not about putting a sign up, putting a lockbox on the door, putting it in the computer, and then praying that it sells, okay? For where you are in life, it's so much more about preparing before you get the call. So if we look at this as a 14-day window from the day that you had me come out or one of my team come out, we would look at your house, bring our stager in, help you in the interior exterior improvements, final exterior work, whatever that is, And we can get all of this done exponentially faster than most folks because we work with fine people like Brenda from Moyer's Move Management, who's going to be showing you some great slides later about how to accomplish your move and make it smooth. We know how to integrate with all of the different components to make things work. So think of the timing for just a moment. We talked about 14 days. I had a gentleman on Zion Road in Fairfax who, from the time that he called me and thought he'd be selling within 6 months, it took him 3 years to finally be ready. The point was he finally got the place that he wanted to go to, and he had everything ready well in advance, and he was not at that point going crazy trying to make it all happen. So remember, this is a safe place for you to land where you are in life and to come up with some solutions to help you meet what you want to accomplish here in the transition in life. So this is a concept that can be 14 days, that can be lengthened out to years, depending upon availability, okay? All right, if you have further questions, feel free to ask and we'll answer those later. Next slide, please. The quiet listing is this period of time where maybe before you actually have gotten the call, you have somebody who will give you all the time you want to stay in your home and even buy the house from you with the idea that they'll settle after you get the call. It happens. I've sold 5 homes this way last year, and currently I'm under contract for 1 and in negotiation on a second. What's nice is that the house is not fully prepared. Believe it or not, it could be just not prepared at all. Sometimes buyers are so anxious to get a house in the kind of climate that we're in, where the inventory is low, that they're willing to take a house off the market and pay a premium price without the improvements. It's pretty incredible to see. No photos, no lockbox, no sign. It's not in the multiple listing service. And there's actually a reduced commission during that window because I haven't done any of the marketing that I normally would do. So if you want some more information on that too, feel free to ask for it. We've got a wonderful set of guides you can find at our website, which is at the bottom right corner. Feel free to go there if you'd like to get some more information on that. Next slide. Condition. Well, I don't know about you, but it seems like I'm always doing something in my house to maintain the condition. You feel that? Yeah. So next slide. When we think about the condition of our home, we also think about the stuff that we have. We think about the things that we have that we've inherited from our ancestors and the things that we've acquired that we want to pass on generationally. I think of it kind of like a baton in a race. And we at some point pass the baton, and the baton is many different things that we own, that we pass on to our children, or that our parents have passed on to us. So we want to know how to preserve our past, organize our current present, and launch ourselves into the future of where we're going. How are we going to accomplish that? What's the best way to make that happen? Well, let's take the next slide and I'll explain some tactics for that. We want to preserve our memories. When I consider my cell phone, this is just incredible technology. You know, the Apple phone has only been out for iPhone for what, 12, 13 years now? I may be wrong on the timing of that, but it's not been very long. And now the camera is so good, the audio is so good, I can walk around my home, and this is what I would encourage you to do, is walk around your home just the way that it is. Film all the artwork the way that you hung it up over the years. Film the packed linen closet. Film everything just the way that it is, so that you have a memory of what you have as it is now. And then as you start your right-sizing, decluttering, downsizing process, you will go through a process of disseminating those things and passing those batons forward. You may even want to shoot video of specific items that you're passing off to your children or maybe donating. Interestingly, the other day, I discovered a letter I had inherited. It was the letter from the Wolf Trap Foundation offering the first artistic director at Wolf Trap their job in 1972. It was just a surprise to me. I'm a big fan of Wolf Trap, and I go every summer many, many times. And I've been going since I was a little kid. I remember my first concert was the Preservation Hall Jazz Band, and getting up on the stage as they marched, my sister and I walked through, got up on the stage and high kicked our legs as we're dancing along. We love the Wolf Trap. You know, as I pass that on to Wolf Trap, I want to film that letter and remind myself where it came from, and even tell the story of what happened, how I gave it, because then I've given it, and now my family knows that story. Does that make sense? So if you have things that you're not sure of the value, well, yesterday I reached out to Matt Quinn from Quinn's Antiques. Many of you know who he is and know the company. They're one of many fine antique companies out there, and they've moved dramatically with technology, and some of us are just not aware of it. So let me give you a tidbit. You can take a picture on your phone of an item, and you can email it or text it over to Quinn's Auctions and say, I have this piece, I don't know if it's valuable, can you give me a thought on it? Recently, I had a home that I was selling that had a lamp that looked like a Tiffany lamp. It was beautiful. The glass was gorgeous. It turned out to be a refabrication of Tiffany made by a third-party vendor, probably in the 1950s, right? But it looked really darn good. The key there was you don't have to go driving over somewhere, carrying a lamp in necessarily, or hiring a $150 an hour appraiser to come over and look at things just to get a ballpark idea. So think of those as good concepts for you to preserve your memories, pass the baton, and also eliminate some of the fear of what you might be giving away. Next slide. Your prescription for staging. Well, staging prescription is literally, it's like my stager comes in and says, here's what I want you to do in the kitchen and how I want us to present. Now we handle at the Eric Stewart Group the staging costs, the stager and everything, so there's no skin on, off your hand to make that happen. But when you get that prescription, a good bit of work will go into what you're going to do to declutter what you have, clearing out spaces and so on. And Brenda, again, will bring a little more of that forward in a bit. Next slide. I love this slide. I love this slide because this is what 2020 did to our business. Look at this picture on the left-hand side of this 1994 Toll Brothers style family room, 2-story. The owner did not have the ability to move anything out of their home because of COVID. Okay, we couldn't get stuff out. Everything's in a lockdown for about a month and a half, and then things open up in April, May. So the furniture you see on the left-hand picture is actually a furniture in this room as a buyer walks through to look at the house. We took this image and we digitally scrubbed out the furniture, and then we digitally added the furniture on the right. Now you can imagine this is an intensive operation, but we found this to actually be a better means of showing our properties than actually bringing a lot of furniture in. So why? Because a buyer can walk through, see it in 2 different forms, and we will blow up the photo on the right, put it on an easel in the rooms that we've virtually staged, and a buyer will get a sense of what they saw online and also get a sense of what it looks like and be able to walk through the whole space. Next slide. Here's an example of a vacant space. So if you happen to move in with a vacant home, we can virtually stage it as we did here on the right. Next slide. When I'm looking at pricing, there's 6 basic categories that I consider. Now there's some other tertiary ones, but these are the core elements in my pricing consideration for your home. When I look at square footage, I look at the overall square footage and what is the average in Ballston? What is the average in Fredericksburg? What is the average in McLean or Arlington or Alexandria, wherever you're coming from? What is the average square footage gives me a sense of what an appraiser will use in calculating fair market value. It's just a piece, but it's a consideration. To that point, let me point out something very important to you. Oftentimes your tax assessment is incorrect. So when I meet with a seller, I look at the tax assessment, but I hold back a final pricing recommendation until after we've measured every room in your house to validate that what the assessor says is correct is correct. I'll tell you, I just discovered this. I moved recently. I feel a bit of the pain of going through a downsizing process. I have 5 children. They all have launched now, and I've just moved from something bigger to something smaller, and I know how difficult that can be. I found out in my new tax assessment for my new home that the basement is assessed as having about 600 extra square feet than it actually has. Now that's going back, this home was built in 1967. That goes back to 1967. An assessor walks through and guesses what the basement has without going downstairs is the only thing I can consider. So think of that, 56 years of owners paying a higher tax bill on their house than they had to if they'd gone through just analyzing what the assessment says compared to what they actually have. Now think of that in terms of selling, because I've had homes where the assessor has been wrong to the low side. And I want to make sure we validate, verify square footage, because when you sell, the new appraiser is going to walk through and measure. They're going to make sure that the square footage is in fact what's represented, and we want to verify that to get you the top dollar for your home. Historical comparables would be right in the root of your neighborhood. You know, it's good to know the land where your house is. It's good to know the parks and the schools, and all of that research is important to do. You want to understand what's historically valuable, and it's also important to know where the school lines are, right? The difference between one school and another, even though the school doesn't convey with the property is located within a school district at the time of sale and carries some value, extra value or lower value accordingly. Condition, our goal as real estate agents to walk through, tell you where to put $1 to get $2 back. Overall market direction, we want to see, are we still in a bull market? Based upon the charts I showed you earlier, we are still in a bull market. Are we potentially going to transition at some point if rates stay high? I think probably, but I don't see it yet. Timing, that's the time of the year element. When's the best time, and considering where we are within that. And then lastly, replacement cost. Well, that's become more important. I built a stone wall at my old house back in 1998. And I built it with a stonemason, and we did it together, a dry stack stone wall. And I paid him about $35 an hour back then. Now it would cost me about $65. The reason I bring that is we want to look at all the improvements you have and recognize that the replacement cost is much greater than it was when you did it. And then we factor that into our thinking also. Okay, good. Elements and pricing, take all of that consideration. Next slide. Fiduciary relationship is imperative. Now, the state of Virginia allows a real estate agent to represent both the buyer and the seller. I don't do that. I chose years ago only to represent one party at a time because I just think it's just difficult to play both sides of that coin. I think you can't do it. You need to choose your fiduciary relationship and have that person's back. So when I'm representing a seller, I only ever represent the seller. Care, obedience means to tell you what we think and then do what you ask. We're accountable to you, we're loyal, we follow full disclosure. That's not only disclosure of condition in the property, but we treat all parties the same according to the Civil Rights Act of 1866, the Fair Housing Act of 1968, the American with Disabilities Act of 1990, etc. Next slide. So if you're interested and would like to know the value of your home, would like to get a market evaluation, you can call me directly. Here's my cell phone number, and this is my email address, and happy to come by and meet with you and give you a sense of value. Now, please understand this too. By calling our group, you're not committed to us. We're here out of the courtesy of Goodwin Living because they recognize that we have a very open-handed approach to all of our clients, built on trust and safety. So I want you to know that if you call us and we come out, we give you a sense of where market value is. It'll be completely your decision what you want to do and when you want to do it. But at least then you can have a sense of what you need out of what you have to where you're going to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. Great tips about the market, about preparing our homes for sale, about even looking at our tax bills more closely. So thank you for all of that, Eric Stewart. Our next speaker is Brenda Holt. Brenda is the account executive and senior move manager for Moyer Move Management. Brenda has been in the move management industry for over 10 years. moving thousands of people in the DMV, many of those into Goodwin Living communities. Whether it's helping to sort and downsize, pack and unpack, preparing a floor plan, finding storage, shipping items to children out of the area, or many other needs of preparing and executing a move, Brenda can help. As a move manager, Brenda strives to take the stress and burden of moving off the shoulders of her clients so they may focus on starting their new life in their new home in a seamless fashion. Thank you, Brenda, for joining us today.
Thank you, Sue, and welcome everybody. Thank you for having me here today. I just wanted to give you a little bit more background about myself. My grandmother, Babe Young, was a native Washingtonian. I myself grew up in a suburb outside of Detroit. And then after I graduated Cornell Hotel School, I decided to settle in the DC area over 40 years ago to be with my grandparents. I met my husband on an airplane. We had 4 children, and to my chagrin, none of them live here, although they do provide me very good vacation places in Chicago, Seattle, Breckenridge, Colorado, and of course, one of them had to leave the United States, Cabo, Mexico. In my free time, I am a member of 2 garden clubs, and I often find homes for orphan plants from the people that I move. And I also, one of my favorite things that I do is I chair a mobility drive where I collect wheelchairs, walkers, canes, and they're donated to countries throughout the world. So let's get started talking about your move, and we'll go to the next slide, please. So there are 3 major parts to a move. There's the pre-move part, the moving phase, and then the settling in phase. The more we prepare in the pre-move part, the less stress, hopefully, the move will be. The settling in phase is very important too, because that part is where we get rid of the boxes, we hang the pictures, we make your beds, make everything look nice so that you're ready to start your new life. And preparing for the settling in phase is important so you're not surrounded by boxes. Let's go to the next slide. So the number 1 thing to do before you start your move, sit back, take a deep breath, and acknowledge this is really a life event. It needs a place of its own amongst your daily routine. It shouldn't be fit in. It needs to be front and center. And then you're ready to start moving on. Next. So traditionally, moves were done alone, where you would pick up the phone, call a mover, ask them to pack up your items, and then deliver them to the new place you're going to go. The boxes are dropped, they leave, and you're left with the burden of unpacking and possibly even shifting furniture if it's not placed in the right place. Next. But today, you have the opportunity to work with a move manager. And I myself am a senior move manager where we specialize specifically in moving seniors. Our goal is to make sure that your move is run smoothly from the beginning, pre-moving phase, all the way through the end, whether it's helping you arrange storage or send items to your children, doing a floor plan, packing, unpacking, being your liaison with Goodwin House or with the movers. The move manager takes over every aspect of the move to take the burden off your shoulders, help reduce your stress. And a move manager can do as much or as little as you like. Some people like to pack and unpack themselves. Other people want everything done. They want to close the door on the one house, open it up in the new house, have the pictures hung, the beds made, everything done. A move manager could do that for you. Next slide. So we have lots of stuff. What do we do with this stuff? We have stuff from your kids, from yourself. There are things that are gifted to us, things that we have very good intention to use, but we don't, like the chair that needs to be fixed. And the next slide. And then the big one, which is the family archives. And the cartoon says, "One day, son, all this will be yours." And it's Sal's storage that they're standing in front of. And our kids don't collect the way that we used to collect. We collected out of necessity because we never knew if we were going to be able to get that item again. Our kids just click on the computers and get whatever they need. They want less, they want smaller, and they definitely don't want our things. So what are we going to do? How are we going to get the process started? Next slide. So the second step, again, take a breath, walk purposely through your house, use fresh eyes, bring somebody, a neighbor, a friend. They're not going to see your house the way that you do, but look at the cabinets, look deep into the cabinets, see what you have all the way in the back that you haven't seen. Open up your tall cabinets and the area that I call Never Never Land, because we never use those things. Take an assessment of what you have. Next. Then when you look at the items, and I do believe in the Marie Kondo method, does it bring you joy? When you see it, you hold it, you put it on you, do you feel good? Does it make you feel happy? If it doesn't, let someone else experience the joy. Let it go. It's okay. My tip number 2 is if it takes too long. For me, my view is if it takes too long for me to decide, it's a no, get rid of it, Brenda. You don't need this. But for other people, it may not be. So figure out which method works best for you. If you take a long time trying to figure something else, then maybe it is a maybe. But move on quickly and acknowledge this is the method and this is the way I'm going to start doing my sorting. As you move through and you start sorting, you have trash, let it go every week with your trash. You don't want to pile it up to the end and have a mover have to take it to the dump and pay the dump fees to get rid of things. Another good sorting tip is photos. What do we do with photos? There's a couple things that you can do. One might be to send them off to an outfit where they will digitalize everything and put it onto a stick. Another, which I've seen many of my clients do, be to purchase a digital picture frame. Take a picture of your picture, goes right up on the picture frame. A lot of the picture frames have their own email addresses, so your children and your grandchildren can send you pictures all the time. It's a good way to start sorting and getting rid of things. And to go back, number 5, liberate your linen closets. If you're going to be using Goodwin House linens, you're not going to need as many linens. So think about the dog shelters or charities where you might be able to send them off to. Next slide. So as I said a little bit earlier, formulate a plan. What works best for you? And you don't have to be overwhelmed, and you look at a room and you say, where do I start? Start at one drawer. Start on one shelf. Go one bag at a time. Get a brown paper bag, open it up and say, today I'm going to fill this bag. And do it in reasonable sorting increments, 15 minutes, up it to 30 minutes. It's sort of like exercising when you get on a bike and you can only do 15 minutes and then you can do 30 minutes and you start getting into a groove. And also have a target end date so that if you find that you're not able to sort as fast as you like as you approach this end date, you can possibly ask for help. Which leads me to the next slide. Very, very, very important. Know your limitations. There are too many people that I've worked with that actually physically make themselves sick because they do too much on their own. So ask a friend to help. Hire a move manager like me. And if you go it alone, make sure you take all your vitamins, all your medication, drink all your water, and take very good care of yourself, because moving can be stressful and sorting can also be. Next slide. So once you decide what you want for yourself, and I really do mean you come first. If you're deciding between giving this chair to your daughter who really wants it, or you know that it's most comfortable and the size is just right for your apartment, you should have it first. And then the other opportunities are sale, donation. Some things do belong in the trash. Oftentimes people sell things to the new owners, or they just let them convey along with the house. And when you're dealing with your stuff, you don't have to decide immediately, but think about, do you want to have the movers like ours pluck your items out and take them to Goodwin House? Or would you rather get rid of the things beforehand? So we can work out a timing, whatever works best for you. Next. So some of the things people wonder, can I sell my things? Are they worth something? So try to keep in the back of your head, if you want to sell something, it's worth 10 to 20% of the original value is probably what you're going to get if you're lucky. There are different options that you have. You can use an estate online sale, like a company called Max Sold, where everything is lots are taking pictures in your home, it goes online, and then it's sold auction style. Everything starts at $1, and then people come one day to your home to pick it up, or the traditional estate sale in your home where people are walking through the home. There's an auction where a company like ours, like Moyer Move Management, arranges to have the items picked up from your home and taken to the auction house. It can be done in conjunction with moving your house or clearing out your home. There are people that are estate pickers that many move managers have relationships with. They'll come through your house, they can tell you value of items, they'll give you cash on the dollar right there and then and take the items away. And there are other online approaches too, if you're comfortable. Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp's an app. I often tell people, use your neighborhood listserv. That might be some of the best ways to get rid of things. And finally, again, the home buyer. So it's helpful if you have some things you'd like to sell, make a list of them and either post on any of these places or wait for the home buyer to get the first dibs. Next slide. So this is just an example of, I wanted to show you what an auction might look like from an auction house. Many of them have the opportunity to use online. This is Weschler's, and they are able to get a very far reach. We actually had a client who had a Chinese plaque. I wasn't sure what the value was. I sent it to Weschler's, and somebody in China bought it for over $25,000. So if we are in doubt, it's nice to send something to a local auction house versus straight to donation. And if you notice on this slide, what I find very interesting is the lamp has 3 bids and the beautiful chest has 0. And what the trend is that more people are buying decor, smaller items. Those big, beautiful pieces of furniture may sell, but for a fraction of what we expect them to. Next slide. This is just highlighting a little bit about donation and charity. Because of COVID, many of the very good charities have closed their doors, unfortunately, reduced their hours, and they are very specific about what they want. Many of them don't take upholstered furniture, they don't take large furniture. As a move manager, it's my job to find a good place to donate things. We do have resources of places that take almost everything. If you do decide to take care of donation on your own, there are places, but please considering the amount of time it takes for them to come to make a pickup, usually about 6 weeks. So plan ahead if you plan on taking care of the donation and charities yourself. Next. Trash. For me, it's always a little bit of a stickler because I would like everyone to, if you can, send things to trash ahead of time. Take advantage of bulk pickup. If you don't have to pay for getting rid of trash, the better, because moving can be expensive, and this just adds a little bit more expense on top of it. Next slide, we're going to talk about move on to floor plan design. So we had the first part, which is getting downsizing, the pre-move, downsizing, what do we do with our things? Another very important part about pre-moving is a floor plan. Your floor plan is like your treasure map. It tells your movers where to place things. It tells you whether or not you can bring something. Many times when we do a floor plan, we'll do it 2, 3, 4, up to 10 times. We can overlay new pieces of furniture if you're wondering whether something will fit into there. And we do everything it's to scale. So you can't really stretch and try to get an extra piece of furniture if it doesn't work. And if we go to the next slide, this shows you, this is actually an apartment at the Goodwin House and gives you an example about how we do them. The different colors are from the different rooms that each of the furniture were from. So you can see some furniture were repurposed from different rooms because there are different colors throughout. And we can overlay different sizes of furniture and also placing rugs, which is very important. So next slide, this gives you an example. We're trying, when we do the floor plan, to give you a feeling of what your legacy home would feel like in the Goodwin House. And these are, again, actually real apartments in the Goodwin House to the right. And then next slide. And again, similar type of feeling that we're trying to recreate and trying to use as the furniture that our clients have requested, and picture hanging too. Next slide. And this one, the legacy home was a large, very spacious area. And on the right in Goodwin House, we were able to still recreate that in an apartment size living. Next slide. So just a quick review of what we talked about, that remember, moving is a very big event in your life. So give it the grace and the time and deep breath before you dive into it. And the more you do on the pre-moving phase, the less stressful it can be. And when you start out, walk your home, formulate a plan that works best for you, and recognize your time and your energy limits. Our floor plan is very important. And if you need help from a professional move manager to help reduce the stress, we're here to help you with that. Next slide. And Moyer Move Management, we work alongside with Goodwin House. I've done many, many moves at Goodwin House. We offer a complimentary 1-hour consultation. We come out to your home, we walk your home, you can show me what furniture you would like to take, we measure it and get you on your way to moving to Goodwin House. So thank you very much for allowing me to be here today.
Thank you, Brenda. I love the pictures in her presentation. I love to see the kind of before and after from the home that residents come from to their new home at Goodwin House. So thank you for sharing those, Brenda. Our upcoming events. Let's take a look at the upcoming events that Goodwin Living will be hosting. You'll see, first of all, I'm not seeing, there we go. One more slide to upcoming events. We have a little delay. You are in our Sell Your Home for Top Dollar webinar right now. And the next upcoming event that we're having is for our Priority Club members. We are hosting our annual open houses for Priority Club members, giving them an opportunity to visit a large variety of apartments at each one of our communities, Goodwin House Alexandria and Goodwin House Bailey's Crossroads. You'll have an opportunity to walk into the apartments that are occupied by residents and see a number of different floor plans. And the purpose is really to double check the apartment preferences that you have listed for us and make sure that those are still accurate. These are self-directed tours. Our Priority Club members walk around the community unassisted and have an opportunity to really mingle with other Priority Club members as well as residents over refreshments and really enjoy the day in the community. So the first one is being held at Goodwin House Bailey's Crossroads on Thursday, March the 30th, followed by the Goodwin House Alexandria Open House on April the 13th. Those invitations will go out in the mail shortly. And if you are a Priority Club member, you'll be receiving an invitation. If you're not yet a Priority Club member, if you fill out that application and pay that fee, we'd love to be able to invite you to the open house so that you can have an opportunity to join our wait list and visit those apartments. So at this time, we would like to review any questions that you may have had. And we did receive a few. And so I'm just going to review those real quickly, and I'll direct them to the appropriate person to answer that question. So if you want to move to the next slide, which is the contact information for Goodwin Living. Here's our first question, and it looks like this should be directed to Eric. And the question is, I've heard that the spring is the best time to sell. Is that true in our area? And has the spring market begun?
When we consider just like when the tide comes in at the ocean, the market comes in and there's a function that just sort of is out of all of our control. The overall demand does tend to come in the spring, and that usually starts actually earlier than many people would think, which is in the early part of February, and that has begun. So the demand is there. The lack of inventory it puts you in a position, if you wanted to put your home up for sale now, even if it's not really show ready, would put you in a very highly demanded position. So if you're thinking of selling, I'd say timing trumps condition at the moment. Timing trumps condition. So the market typically, think of selling between February and May, mid-May timeframe, with the highest prices yielded in April, May, June, and July, because it takes 45 to 60 days, sometimes 30 days from the point of contract until you actually settle. So.
Okay, thank you, Eric. The next question is, does Goodwin Living offer any incentives for new residents? And so I'll take this one. And yes, we do. We offer a settling in incentive. And what that is we work with our business partner, Moyer Move Management, to assist new residents in settling into their new apartments. We know what a good feeling it is to have those cardboard boxes disappear. And so Moyer, if a resident would like them to, will offer to unpack and settle into their new apartment, and Goodwin Living pays for that service because we feel it's very important for our new residents to feel comfortable in their new homes. So I hope that answers that question. Another question is, looks like this is for Eric as well. Have you seen many sellers have to lower their asking price lately?
I've not seen many that have had to lower their asking price, no. There's been an occasional time where, if you think of the timing of the market, if you try for an early spring price in October, the market's a little different. So you have to be maybe a little sharper in ask price. I'm a firm believer, this is a case that we just closed this past week. We listed a home for $1,050,000. That was the signature on the listing agreement last year. But we decided to lower the price before we came on the market. We lowered the price to $1 million even. I felt we could get $1,050,000, but at $1 million, we could fulcrum, we could leverage the buyer demand between 9 and $1 million and $1 million and $1.1 million. So we could get more interest and greater demand. We ended up selling the home for $1,125,000. So we priced it more to gather attention and achieve that greater success. And the last thing I'll say on that is that you don't want to sell too quickly. You don't want to sell in a day or hours or otherwise. You've left money behind. It's better to expose the property for 5 or 6 days, which is what we did in that situation. And we ended up getting, again, $75,000 higher than the original number we had listed for by taking a slightly different tactic. So there's going to be, if I price your home, I'll price it where I think you should be, and then where kind of our high side would be for ask, and then you decide.
Okay, thank you, Eric. It looks like this one is for Brenda. Brenda, my friend has a lot of Oriental rugs in her home, and she is beginning to learn that they don't have the value that she thought they did. She's interested in selling them, but she doesn't see the value that she thought she might get for them. Is that true? Is that what you're seeing, Brenda?
So there are a lot of different trends with the way that things are selling. And in the past, Oriental rugs were not selling for very much. But then lately, they are back to selling pretty well. So I would say you send them off to auction and cross your fingers, and don't expect, like I said, 10 to 20% of the original value, and hopefully you get more than that. But it's not the same investment it was years and years ago, but it's coming around.
Okay, thank you. So I guess the moral of that story is use your resources and work with an expert so that you can get full value for your items.
Yes.
Here's another one. What is the advantage of working with a seniors real estate specialist, Eric?
Being a seniors real estate specialist means that you're a realtor who's gone through training in the National Association of Realtors to gather a designation that would suggest you're aware and able to be sensitive to the needs of those who are usually going through a right-sizing process as a part of their move. Oftentimes they're moving from a much larger home or a home that is a split level or whatnot, and they're just trying to figure out, how do I make that process work? Understanding the components, working with a professional move management group, for instance, working with the right contractors, addressing your timing and being able to integrate very smoothly with Goodwin, so that, you know, we communicate very, very well with Goodwin about what you're trying to accomplish, how you're trying to get it, and keep them abreast of what we're doing so that you're not having to think through doing too many things. So it's that training. And then the expertise really comes from, I've had the designation for a dozen years. It's really through the practice of anything that you get better and better over time. And I've worked with probably 1,000, literally 1,000 of downsizing seniors now in my career. So I'm pretty steeped in it. So I think the benefit is understanding and guidance.
Okay, thank you. And this last question looks like it's one that you can both address. It says, I am waiting for my apartment at Goodwin House. Should I wait until that apartment is ready for me to choose my realtor and start my downsizing? So let's start with Brenda. Should this person wait until their apartment is ready for them at Goodwin House to start their downsizing? I think I know what you're going to say.
Yes, it's never too early to start the downsizing process. There are often times where we will downsize and people aren't even going to move. So I've had someone a year before that they actually moved. They didn't even know what apartment they were going to move into, but they knew that they had closets and drawers and things that they just had to go through. Everything needed to be looked at. So even before you get the date, even before you get an apartment, when you're ready to start the process, it's time.
Okay, and Eric, should I wait to choose my realtor?
I wouldn't. Your real estate agent, especially if you're choosing somebody who understands the position that you're in, is going to be a bit like the quarterback for your team and guiding you, bringing the contractors in, assisting you, and helping. As Brenda said, it's never too early to start the downsizing process, the decluttering process and sorting and whatnot. So getting a good real estate agent who can guide you and also help you think through where you can put $1 to get $2 back as a part of that preparation process. So just pretend with me, Brenda and I are both working together to serve you in your sale. Brenda's organizing you and she's getting you ready with the things that you're going to take and helping you identify, based upon the apartment you're going to, what's going to fit where. Now it's a question of what do we want to do also to prepare the house itself, which is my focus. And how can I help you get the contractors in, get the estimates to do things, and then time things. For instance, I wouldn't be painting the outside of your home except on a day like yesterday at this time of year, but the focus might be on the inside. Last thing I'll add to that is I'm preparing someone who's going to go on the market later this spring. And over the last 4 or 5 months, we've just been guiding her, getting the contractor, getting the estimate, then lining up the contractor. The contractor goes in, she's going to go on a trip. So we have the floors done, in this case, while she's traveling. And then I go in and check and make sure the doors are locked and, you know, that kind of thing. So we really guide you through that, prepare it. And then you get that call and it's like, I've already got my photos. We've already got everything we need. You've already approved all the marketing. It's now just a question of final pricing consideration based upon where we are in the market at that time. And you're like, you'll just be in heaven, like, oh, this is so good. I don't feel like I have to now start something. So choose that realtor early.
And
Okay.
I have to say that oftentimes I'll ask my clients, are you working with the realtor? Because they often dictate what we need to do to get you ready, whether or not the furniture is going to stay in the house, whether or not we need to get all the furniture out of the house, communicating with the realtor that this is the date we're moving them on, so you can start doing whatever work you need to do, or Brenda, I need them out of the house sooner so I can do my thing. So it's helpful to have both people in place.
Great. And you work as partners to make sure that a client of yours and future resident of Goodwin Living gets to their apartment and has it beautifully set up for them, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, thank you very much, both of you, our expert speakers, Eric Stewart and Brenda Holt. We appreciate your participation in today's webinar. Thank you to all of you who joined us for today's webinar. If you have any questions, if you'd like to learn more about Goodwin Living, our contact information is on your screen, and we hope to hear from you. And again, this has been recorded, and we will be sure and send you the recording sometime next week. Thank you very much.